Everyone, it's Doug from the Point of Sale Data Minute podcast and live LinkedIn stream and also on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in for episode 19 of the Point of Sale Data Minute. And I'm excited today to have a friend of mine and our guest, Wolf Gugler. Wolf is a seasoned veteran when it comes down to recruitment in the CPG space, primarily focusing on hardlines. And I'd like to welcome Wolf to the episode.
Hey, good to see you, Doug.
Thanks, Wolf. The fans are excited to see it. It's like being at a Leafs game.
Awesome. That's most times I want.
Yeah. Wolf, you want to do a little introduction and let those in podcast and LinkedIn land know a little bit about yourself?
Sure. The picture denotes a little bit in the background here. I'm a Torontonian by nature. I am a transplant, live in the U.S. now. And I've been in the recruitment industry for the better part of 30 years or so. I was fortunate to have a boss very early in who said, focus on one area and specialize. I chose home improvement, hardware, housewares, home goods, that sort of thing. And I've tried to make sure everybody knows who I am throughout the course of years. I had the good fortune to work with retailers and vendors, and that's the 30-second version. There's a lot more.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're going to kill 20 minutes learning a little bit more about it. It's going to be great. So again, thanks for joining me today. Like I said, it's episode 19. Great way to kick it off with you as my guest. I invited you because, I work with national account managers every day at krunchbox for a point of sale data analytics system, and I'm serving them up insights of what happened to the retailer accounts that they're responsible for each week. And I kind of run into two different types of national account managers. I have those who are sitting there with their morning coffee, looking at their data each week on Mondays or Tuesdays, so they get a full understanding of what happened in their retail channel last week and if the retailer that they're responsible for is winning or losing. However, that's the minority of NAMs. The majority of NAMs are kind of stuck in the old school way of, hey, I hope the company has an analyst. That's kind of their role. I'm really just going to sit and wait and see what happened. I call these people, the ones who still standing by the fax machine waiting for the next order to come in. Because the other thing that I've heard is, from the retailer side of the community is we want our national account managers to use the data that we give them and come back to us with some really strong data-backed suggestions. So when it came to who do I know in my network that would be able to talk about what's required in the market these days when, in this case, hardline manufacturers and distributors are looking for NAMs, what's changed over the years? Because we know as the technology changes, the account managers need to be able to keep up with the demands of the retailer, but also the demands of the technology. So I think that's a good place to start. And I'll turn it over to you here and kind of what have you seen over the last, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? What's the trend you see in terms of what companies are looking for when they hire a NAM?
Things have definitely changed. And even from the recruiting side, I will say too that 5, 10 plus years ago, there were a lot more generalists at that time, people who took the shotgun approach, just hoping to win or land a client based on the number of cold calls they made. Again, I was fortunate to have a boss early in who said, find that niche, and that's what I did. So now I think I see more recruiters evolve into discipline, whether it be sales, IT, that sort of thing, or category, like home goods for me. Post-pandemic as well, you get people that are more focused on that work and family life balance, hybrid model, remote model versus being in the office. That's very important to candidates in most cases. And I think fortunately, most of the employers I work with are cognizant of that too. There still are a couple exceptions to the rule. You know what? I don't know that you're working if I can't see you. So you need to be in the office. And there's some merit to that. Of course, you can have that between the office door meeting with someone face-to-face rather than scheduling a Teams call, that sort of thing, and getting on with it too. But there's no question that people look for more than relationships now. I think we'll get into that most definitely. It used to be who do you know? Now it's what do you know? And at the end of the day, I think that's what the retailer partner is searching for.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen it just in some of the job postings I see come across LinkedIn. where some of the descriptions of, the technology that's required or their knowledge of the technology is changing a bit. Would you agree? Like they're looking for more, data forward folks who, know their way around or Excel really well or familiar with Power BI and tools like that?
Yeah, very much. It's not uncommon still with Excel to see a client say, well, you know what, we'd like to do some kind of Excel assessment. And it's not always that you have to be an advanced user, how to morph tables and the like as well. But if you've got some kind of rudimentary knowledge and you're making use of that today, just short of Power BI, then at least you have a skill set that you can probably augment or improve. It's when somebody says they're resistant to that sort of thing that I think the big red flag goes up. And Power BI, absolutely. Of course, we all see acronyms and words of the day, so to speak. This one's here to stay. I see now companies that are perhaps larger and have a data analyst on board to support the national account manager. Then their role is to help pull that data out from various sources, whether it be the retailer's data or other, and help the national account manager being able to present that fact-based information to make an informed decision. When the company's smaller or entrepreneurial, maybe they don't have the headcount internally, then it's all on the NAM. He or she's got to pull that data together. They've got to be comfortable doing that. And now I see many clients in the final stage of the interview process saying, we want you to make a presentation. Could be the hiring company's product, could be the candidate's company product, but give us your spiel, so to speak, on how you would present to a potential customer in a compelling, factual way.
And are you, in your role, are you helping your candidates or coaching them in any way to, when they're asked for those presentations? And do you see a different approach? Some come in with like, well, I need to know what the sales velocity of these products are, how much inventory they have, and others are taking maybe just a more holistic approach and not flying at 5,000 feet, but it's like 10,000 feet. Be like, well, I'd go look at the shelf and I'd figure out kind of where there might be a gap in product fit or something like that.
Give you the consultant's answer. I've seen both. Seen a company say, hey, you know what? Go to the store, walk down the aisle, look at where our product is, give us a presentation as to what you think we're doing right or wrong in terms of data. Go to the competitors. And usually I don't suggest that sort of thing to a candidate. That's their initiative, and it shows at the end of the day if they take that additional step to say that, well, you know what, you're all lined up at Home Depot, it looks great, but boy, across the street at Canadian Tire, not so much, and here's why. And maybe look at shelf space positioning, SKUs, that sort of thing too. So that definitely comes up. Then I do see clients who say, to give an example without a name, we made a recent acquisition. We're not sure what we're going to do yet with this. We're going to integrate it into our business, but we're not sure how we'll go to market. Why don't you give us your impression of what's going to occur if you're on board? That was done with 2 finalist candidates, and the company actually adopted most of the recommendations from the candidate they hired, and it turned out to be a win-win.
I've heard from read articles. There's lots of postings on LinkedIn where this is becoming a bit of the norm, right? Like, give me the business case or give me your analysis, and candidates are sometimes hesitant to dive into all those details and tell them what they do without being told they're going to get the job, because to do that right, it's a fair amount of effort. Have you seen this become more of a recent ask in the hiring phases versus, again, like just 3 years ago or 5 years ago? Or what do you feel about that? What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say that goes back maybe 12 or 18 months or so, Doug. It is much more recent. I've not had somebody balk at doing it. Now, behind my back or whoever, there could be a few words being said about this extra effort.
Right.
At the end of the day, it appears, at least from my experience, that people are pretty happy to do that sort of thing if it's going to allow them to raise the bar and make sure that they end up as the candidate of choice. So I've seen articles where people say, you know what, I don't want to do that. That takes a lot of time and you should pay me to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think in a sales focused role, at the end of the day, you're probably getting a paycheck. You're looking to make that bonus. You need the extra effort. So this is just sort of that extra step in the same
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. When you talk to the VPs of sales today, who I'm assuming are kind of your client contact at the company that you're working for and on the recruitment side, are they, or who they describe as the person that they're looking for? Where is that evolving besides on the data side? Is there any other changes that you've seen over the years before? It used to be like, hey, I'm going to hire Wolf because he knows the guy at Home Depot that I want to do business with. Is there more to that now? Are you getting into like, what's the technology look like on the recruiting side of the business, and what do you see changing from the VP of sales perspective as to like an ideal candidate and person's fit?
Sure. And of course, as much as I preach that the candidate needs to be data savvy and informed, I need to be as well. We do use applicant tracking technology to ensure we don't lose sight and track of the people we've already contacted or spoken with. They're always part of our recruitment effort too, whether it be social media posts, that database of people who may be appropriate or have a recommendation of someone who is, and headhunting. But in terms of the person, yes, I think it used to be, who do you know at Home Depot? Who do you know at Home Hardware? Who do you know at Lowe's? That sort of thing. And if you have a relationship, that's great. I think the other change that affected that, though, on the retail side is you see more merchants now moving from category to category. They might only be in that assignment for 6 months as a stretch goal for their next move up too. So the person you knew yesterday may not be the person you're dealing with tomorrow. In that case, it is back to more of the holistic approach. How do you go about winning business? How do you establish credibility and trust with the customer? And a lot of that doesn't just come from being engaging. That's good, but it comes from knowing your stuff. And that's where the facts and the data come back into place. So we do use keyword searching. I know many people hate that. They think, you know what, I'm going to send a resume in. That technology is going to screen me out and I'll never hear from the recruiter. At the end of the day, we still see a lot of interested people out there. It helps cull perhaps the people that are in no way, shape, or form qualified, at least to a long list that we can start to work through. And trust me, I do not let my technology do my job. At the end of the day, I'm quarterbacking the effort. It's going to help me get to the finish line, but it's not everything.
I think that's a good theme there from the national account manager standpoint as well. The technology that, look, I serve up at Crunchbox and other data tools that are available to them, whether they're using our services or somebody else's, it allows them the capability or provides them with the tool set to do a better job. But you still need to put the effort in, you still need to put the work in, and you still need to put the thought process in to get you from A to B. And you need to think about what steps are going to be in between that.
Yeah, that's true.
Have you seen on that same line? So, you have your VP of sales, and traditionally they'd be looking for someone with a sales background. And I have a customer at Crunchbox who says, I only hire data savvy individuals because I can teach them how to sell. And I wonder if you've worked with anyone who has said, look, Wolf, it doesn't matter their background. What I need is someone who knows their way around retailer results, spreadsheet, inventory analysis, inventory turns, can do these calculations in their head on the fly, and they are on their front foot when they're talking to the retailer. And it's not about, hey, Wolf, I'll have to get back to you on that. So I'm just curious if you've seen them maybe cast a wider net that says, look, I just need someone with this experience versus, if they needed to be a NAM somewhere else before I hire them.
Right. I'd say that's the minority. Most of the clients I deal with, again, just my experience, are looking for somebody that's got some kind of proven sales ability. Maybe it's not in the same field. I've seen clients say, well, if you sold an intangible, a service, that sort of thing. I can make sure you know how to sell a product. You at least have that innate ability to get someone interested in the product to the point where they're willing to buy it. I've probably seen more of that maybe on the retail side. I know Tractor Supply, as a for instance, too, they've had great success in identifying store staff that go on to bigger and better just by visiting a restaurant, saying, "Hey, look at that server." I mean, they're very outgoing, personable. Then start to talk about their skills. They've got a degree in business, looking for their next role, and the career starts from that point in time on.
So if you were a salesperson in a different field than the hardlines and the hardware sector that you're primarily in, and I know you recruit outside of that sector as well, but if you're in a different sector today, what advice would you give to those candidates who would be looking to make the leap into the hardware sector, knowing kind of what those VPs of sales, the parameters or the gates or hurdles they put up before you put a candidate in front of them? What do you think they should do next?
I spoke with someone yesterday, just like that, and they want to move into hard goods. I said that from the background they bring, it's very viable, but look again at being able to quantify accomplishments in your resume. So if you're able to say that with your current employer, you increase sales by X percentage year over year, you were able to target a specific customer, provide them with the compelling evidence or data to allow them to make a decision to bring you into their organization or enhance your positioning, that's going to get you a big way down that interview path, most definitely. But notwithstanding the fact, you still got to have some personality. I know a lot of this is about data, but I think now clients like to try and find out more and be engaging. And one of the approaches from the client side to mention too is to open the interview talking a little bit about yourself, and then just sort of turning it over to the individual to find out who she or he is in terms of their background too. Because sure, you can provide all of that data that a customer might want, but you still have to be somewhat likable at the end of the day. I'm not saying that that's a zero factor in the hire.
Yeah. No, I mean, the best salespeople are the ones, in my opinion, that can turn that data into a story, right? So what you want to do is you want to get, in my world, you want to get the retailer to do what you want them to do. And the best ones are able to take the initiative and share the data, but share it in a way that they can tell the story that gets the retailer nodding their head. I mean, I've heard from both Lowe's and Home Depot over the last probably 18 months that, they want their suppliers to really utilize the point of sale data they make available. Heck, Home Depot's charging thousands of dollars for suppliers to get the data. And they really want them to use it and come to them with data-backed suggestions, which is leading into, the reason I wanted you on today and what we're talking about, which is that, that data savvy NAM. It's not so much driven, I don't think, by the supplier side of the community, although no one would say no to someone who's got a great personality, some sales skills, and is really data savvy. I mean, that is an ideal fit. It's driven by the retailers pushing those suppliers to bring me someone who, yes, understands my business, but can also create a story behind the numbers, talk to the numbers, and help guide me, because we all know the merchant's responsible for thousands of products at these retailers and don't have the time to dig into your widget. You may have just 2 in the store, like you get 10 minutes a year. Let's make sure you understand or have the capability to deliver the message to the retailer.
Yeah. And I can give you a couple examples of that too, is mentioning Home Depot Canada. I was fortunate to be involved when they first came to the Canadian marketplace in helping them staff up their merchant ops team. And at that point, I took a store walk with Jack Hayes, who was the VP of merchandising at the time. And he said that he mandated his merchants to get out there and speak with store staff and customers and find out what it is they want. But a lot of that was, he said, intuitive or gut feel. And fast forward to today, of course, if you came in for a meeting with your merchant without any sort of numbers, you'd be in serious trouble. The other example I've personally seen too is at Home Hardware. I think anyone that deals in the Canadian marketplace knows that it used to be a very relationship-based organization. If you knew your buyer, you were in, and you had a lot of leeway or latitude. And having worked with the company in the last few years too, I've seen the transition where they now have merchants who are looking at data and wanting data and expecting data for that matter too, to make that call. So it's sure not just who you know anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I think we'll wrap up on that note. Wolf, that's our 20 minutes together. If I leave you with the last word today, what do you say is the most significant change? Or if you're a national account manager and you want to become, better at your role from a data perspective and or from a hiring perspective, setting them up for that next role, do you have any one hint or tip that'll help them get that we can leave them with today?
If you don't know the tech side of that, ask your employer. I bet 99% of employers out there will be willing to sponsor you for that education side so that you can add to your toolkit of skills. And hopefully that gets you ready. The other part is you want something else in responsibility, just ask for it. The worst that happens is someone says no. I had a boss that said that to me a long time ago, and it still seems to hold true.
Awesome. Thanks, Wolf, for joining us. We'll talk to you soon. Appreciate your time today and your insights. See ya.
Talk to you soon.
Everyone, that concludes our session with Wolf Gugler. He is a recruiting expert in the hardline space, as you heard. Hopefully you enjoyed the conversation about the data savvy national account manager and how that role continued to evolve. This is episode 19 of the Point of Sale Data Minute podcast, streamed here on LinkedIn and YouTube. Thanks for watching today. If you want to catch the audio portion of this, I'll have it on my YouTube, my podcast channel shortly, which is available on your favorite podcast app. Thanks to my employer, Krunchbox, for sponsoring today's session, and look forward to speaking with you again soon. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks.